going to come back to the question on Chris's experience with Rogan. So he's knocking on the door. He's moved over there.
Yeah, get invited on. He's been to the comedy club. He actually said something quite profound the other day. He goes, because Rogan's such a character, he goes, when he's in the room with people, there's like this distorted reality that follows him around the room. You can't be normal with him because you're talking to one of the most powerful, successful and influential people on the planet. And he wasn't put there through, being a monarch or anything like that. And I said this to you briefly before and you told me to shut up because we weren't recording. Some people just like him, whatever. But let's remove everything from it. You've got a guy who, I think he's from a military-backed family, travelled around, martial artist, comedian, questionable. I'm joking. But then he gets a gig on TV, whatever. But then he pursues something that he finds interesting and does it for 10 years without fail. If you'd seen Joe Rogan 5, 6, 7 years into his career, you would have thought he was insane. And there's a moment where Tom Green, do you remember that film, Freddie Got Fingered? Daddy, would you like some sausage? He goes on Tom Green's show, and I'm not sure if you've seen the footage. He sits there with a Corona on the sofa and he goes, this is amazing because it's television, but it's not scripted. He goes, we're just here having a chat. You see in his mind, he coins the idea of a podcast, and he already in his mind goes, if I do this for 10 years, it'll be the biggest thing ever. He does it for 10 years. It is the biggest thing ever. At the same time, married, got kids. I can only imagine he's a good father, pays his taxes. He's an advocate of drug use. Fair enough. Most people are. But he's like super successful guy that loves weed and occasionally does mushrooms. Like this guy, this is the way I'd put it, right? Some people think I'm sucking him off. You would leave your kids with Joe Rogan if you needed to for a couple hours. Someone goes, oh, cool. Oh, fuck, I need someone to look after my kids. Joe goes, I'll look after him, cool. You would not leave him with Biden. And you would not leave him with Trump. So the two dudes that have fucking run the most powerful country with hundreds of fucking nuclear weapons, you wouldn't leave your kids with.
It's a great analogy.
But then Joe Rogan, and everyone's like, oh, he's a fucking... you'd leave your kids with him.
Yeah, it's because he's got an opinion. So he has an opinion that divides.
It's against the narrative.
I know. But he is true to his word. And you know what? The thing that impresses me the most about him, and it isn't about the podcast, and it's about something, again, that we spoke about off air, is he's unapologetic about what he is. And he also states a lot of the time, it's like, this is just my opinion. This doesn't mean it's the truth. It doesn't mean it's the truth. It doesn't mean that this is what everyone else should think. And this is where society is now. And I've got 4 children now, so I'm trying to migrate them through a schooling system, which is very different to what we went through. And my goodness me, it is a different world to what our parents went through. So I find myself second guessing and having to apologise for who I am and how I am and what I believe. And I listen to, and maybe it's an American thing. I do think it is. I think there's an American element to it. You do a little bit about it. You're unapologetic, but there's a lot of people there, and he's set the tone. He set the charge. And with the podcast, of the way that he's done it, it's free. People listen to him. But the COVID thing was the thing. That was the one that really, I think, showed. Because he had, and we're in the Spotify studio here, he just signed a £100 million deal, and people are dropping off Spotify because of the stuff that he's saying and the fact that he carried on. There was one apology. Was it Neil Young? Was it?
I think so.
Pulled off Spotify.
Yeah, that was it, wasn't it? Was it the singer?
Yeah,
right?
the singer. Yeah, I'm reading his book at the minute randomly. But yeah, there was the one apology that he had, but it's the fact of how unapologetic he is. But the thing that I like the most, and this is what we're doing now, nowhere near to his level or his and Chris's level. Yours and Chris's level was pretty decent. But is the art of conversation and listening, and how well read, the experiences that he's been through from a youngster all the way up to now, and using that to be able to deliver information, because they're like 2.5 hours long. They're shorter now. They used to be longer. They used to be 3.5 hours long. But the breadth of guests that he gets. But I just think there is an art, like he plays himself down. There is an art to deliver what he is doing, and whether or not there is that deep-rooted authenticity, that it was never for money, and he didn't foresee the future of what it could potentially be, but completely fair play. He went a bit right-wing at some point when it went real political, but apart from that, he's the greatest.
The interesting thing is, earlier in the pandemic, I was very pro-vaccine because I based my stance on the vaccine from the information that was available, but then the previous history of vaccines. So, if I was to draw an opinion on what I think rugby players are like, I would draw that based on people in front of me now and then all the rugby players I've ever known. I'd like branch them together. So very pro-vaccine. I remember there was a point in me that I was like, Joe Rogan, what a guy, but fucking bit of an anti-vaxxer. But then, where for a short period of time I thought he was in the wrong, we then go back round circle, and I'm like, fuck, I probably owe him and a few other people an apology from the things that I was saying about it. And all along, he was like, my parents, I would probably say to have it, but I don't think that anyone fit and healthy or kids should have it. And I go, it's pretty much what people are saying now. Pretty much the full circle from it. And I mean, yeah, he never really was there. He didn't put a lab coat on and sit on his podcast and go, listen to me. Blah, blah, blah. He's just having a conversation. Like you say, that art of podcasting, I very much enjoy the podcasts where it's his friends, where they're just fucking around. When he has like an important guest on, they almost have to, oh, tell me about your new book or whatever. But when he has his close-knit friends on, they just fucking chat shit and smoke weed and get pissed, and I love it.
Yeah, it's class. What else did Chris say? Did he, was he comfortable, or did he feel, because again, going back to this guy, Chris, and the reason why I'm talking about it is because there's a business venture that's involved. We don't need to talk too much about it, but listening to him and listening to him talk on his podcast and the Joe Rogan one, what a gifted guy in terms of how he speaks, his knowledge, all these different things. Did he say he felt out of his comfort zone when he was in? Did he prep? Like, what was the... I
don't think he would have admitted that to me, but as far as prep, I think he has with the last 5 years of having guests on. But I think that, like, I suppose probably once you met him, he's just a normal guy.